Plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society. Over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. That was a quote by the great French economist Frédéric Bastiat, which opens up our topic for the day: stemming the tide of government corruption. Today we're going to talk about 3 ways to stop or reduce government corruption, starting with term limits, placing them in congressional and local governments, formal lobbying systems, and demanding fiscal transparency. First, we're going to talk about term limits. The Bushes, the Kennedys, the Clintons, the Rockefellers, the Comos, the list goes on. What do these families all have in common? Multi-generational political pull. How is it okay for some families to run cities, states, and even full countries for years on end? This brings up our topic for the day. This brings up our topic in term limits. Being in state and federal politics for a long period of time allows the issues of a few long-standing families or Congress people to permeate the entirety of our political system and legislature. Jim Babbitt states in his article, Ill Wind Over Washington, published in The American Spectator, that lobbying is inherent and important for our democracy, but that the length of time by politicians spent in office is directly related to the amount of corruption that lobbying brings to that politician. He talks about how our founding fathers, out of all of them, none were career politicians, and that our government was not designed to function that way. There are many examples of this, but Mr. Babin uses one in particular. His name is Randy Duke Cunningham. Now, the Duke was a Vietnam-era Navy war fighter pilot. When he went into office, he had an impeccable spotless record, but as his re-election stacked up, so did his lack of care about the growing reach of power and its corrupting touches in his life. There came a time where he took bribes from a defense contractor, and in return, he repaid them by making sure that they got deals or considerations in government that they would have never gotten otherwise. Now, greed turned Duke into just another bagman. This type of thing happens all the time, and that is why it's important that we place term limits to reduce corruption in our government. So we did talk about term limits, so now we're going to move on to lobbying. Lobbying and bribery and lobbying. Let me quote Michael Niello from his Forbes magazine article titled "Corruption, American Style." He says, "We know that intuitively that bribery and lobbying are related. Now, there are reams and reams of academic papers trying to draw a line between legitimate issue advocacy and lobbying, or in corruption, lobbying is not inherently bad or wrong, it's just easily twisted to be that way. There are issues that are not always on the minds of American politicians that need to be advocated for and that affect Americans every day. But the idea is not to remove lobbying as a whole, it's to completely remove money from lobbying. Charlie Cray tells us in his article, Combating the Culture of Corruption, or Not, published in Multinational Monitor, that everybody working on congressional corruption believes that the way to reduce corruption and lobbying is to fund elections publicly. It's a key factor. So if all politicians were only allowed to use the same amount of money from the same sources and it was always provided by the public, that dirty lobbyists would have much less sway over our Congress people. So now that we've talked about lobbying, let's move on to our final topic, fiscal transparency. So many people in the United States and many other countries often complain that their governments are wasteful, corrupt, or even just inefficient with their tax dollars. And this is what David Leffner showcases in his Observer article titled "Crazy Things Americans' Corrupt Officials Have Done with Their Money." He lists many zany yet angering wastes of public funds, such as private jets, secret Italy affair getaways, $139,000 set of office doors, or $333,000 spent by the Navy on coffee mugs, or something crazy like that. Now, we only know of these and others because of honest internal accountants. Now, I'm sure there are many corrupt accountants that we don't hear anything about all these corruption cases. So the public having eyes on each of these transactions is essential for minimizing corrupt spending practices in our state, local, and federal governments. Now, these claims are backed up by a study done by Jonathan Justice and John McNutt titled Social Capital, E-Government, and Fiscal Transparency in the States, published in Public Integrity. Their study shows a direct correlation between a community feeling like the government isn't corrupt and fiscal transparency in the community. Now, it is doubly so if that fiscal information is available directly online. Their study goes on to show that in areas with high corruption, that the community tends to demand fiscal transparency so they can hold their leaders accountable for what they've done. So today we talked about government corruption revolving around term limits, lobbying, and fiscal transparency. Now, these are not partisan issues. These are not things that the parties are going to talk about and advocate. It's because both parties are complicit in their behaviors. I urge you to do some of your own research. Maybe go into the city or state and look around and see if there are any politicians who stand out in the fight against corruption. Maybe that they're fighting for ways to take away their own power, to limit their own reach, and those are the type of leaders that we